Power to conquer restaurant staffing shortages. This is brought to you by GuestGetter and the Nimble Bar Company. My co-host, who is supposed to be on with me today, Ken McGarry, has just returned from COVID testing because he thinks he has COVID. So you get just more of me. So today's game plan, I'm going to give you a quick intro of who I am. We're going to set the scene. Why are we here? We're going to talk about a culture reset, because I believe that it is our culture that serves as a beacon and as a magnet to attract more of what we want into our businesses, whether it's more customers or more applicants or a better team. We're then going to talk about the shift from traditional marketing of bringing more guests in through our doors to currently a lot of folks are having to develop their recruitment marketing plans. I'll show you a little bit of a demo of a case study of Chick-fil-A, who is embodying a lot of what we're going to talk about really well. And then I want to turn it over to you guys and get your insights, and we can kind of collaborate a little bit. So by the way, I usually have some sort of tech, I can't see chat, so there should be a Q&A there if you want to deposit questions into that Q&A as they come to you, not necessarily so that I can answer them, but perhaps so that somebody else here can answer them. So let's set the scene, okay? So why are we here? Well, it all started with the birth of the internet, which happened many years ago. The tectonic shifts were happening well before COVID. The pandemic was simply an earthquake that accelerated shifts that were happening anyways. The internet created a viable path to work flexibility, geography flexibility, and new ways of contributing value and new ways of working. Kind of a little sort of interesting aside, we're actually right in the midst of a dawn of a new era called Web 3. And Web 2 is essentially streamlining how information was exchanged. And Web 3 is really about streamlining how value is exchanged. And this has really been spurred by blockchain technologies. Anyways, long-winded way of saying, this kind of a brave new world, just to, yeah. So, and then when you add stimulus checks to this, of course, we've entered what's becoming known as the Great Resignation, right? So it's not the Great Recession, it's the Great Resignation. And so a lot, these metrics are from the Contrarian newsletter. So 55% of Americans anticipate finding a new job in the next year. So just imagine that you have, let's say, 20 employees. Anywhere from 10 to 12 of those employees over the course of the next year are likely going to not be with you. Searches for remote jobs are up 460%. And by the way, there is a way for us as restaurant owners and operators to tap into this. And in June, 4 million Americans quit their job. Meanwhile, there are 9 million open positions, right? So, so employees are migrating, clearly, but where are they going? Honestly, who the fuck knows? So, like this whole shifts like this, no one knows, right? It's completely new. So what we can do though is we can stick to what will always be true. We can be principle driven, and this leads us into a simple culture reset. What I mean by this is every single person, they are becoming someone. This is a little philosophical, but they are at point A right now, and they want to get to point B. So what we can do is we can begin to uncover that. We can just have a simple sit down with each member of our team and understand who it is that they're becoming. And I'll make this concrete in a moment. But what this enables us to do is once we understand who they're becoming, we can position our business and our culture as the wings that help them get there. So the big question is, who are your employees / team members becoming, okay? And now to understand who they're becoming, we simply ask these questions. And by the way, some of these questions might seem weird. I have sat team members down myself and I've asked these questions of them. And interestingly, at first, the reaction is usually like, this is weird, but then they get bought into it because they understand that you are buying into them, so they become bought into you. Okay, so the questions are, and by the way, none of this is like gospel, okay? These are ideas. This whole presentation is about actionable ideas, okay? So ask them, what is your dream outcome? Like, what do you really want in your life? And it's not just about like, it's not the, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? It's like, what's important to you? What's standing in your way of whatever that dream outcome is? Maybe you want to start a business, right? Or, for me, that's what I was working in bars and restaurants. First, it was to fuel my education, and then it was to fuel the building of a business, right? So as a restaurant owner, had I known that about myself, I could have aligned myself and I could have said, well, we're going to help you get there. We're going to figure out what training you need, what mentorship you need, and we are going to become part of that journey, right? Moving on, what skills do you want to acquire? Right? They're like being in a bar or restaurant, it requires a lot of skills for it to run successfully. So what are you keen to learn? What are your financial and lifestyle goals? And ultimately, what are your values? And some people might not have answers to these, and that's okay, because what we can then do is we can help them uncover their answers. And in that way, we become coaches to our team members, which is very powerful for your brand. Think about team members who leave and then they reflect and they talk about their experience, and they say, that place really helped me get, become the person I wanted to become. Okay, so we want to understand who they're becoming, and as I mentioned, when they know that you're bought into them, they'll buy into you. Okay, so, and that understanding is gold. I just found this gift. That's gold, Jerry Gold. Anyways, it's gold because it gives you the incredible power to do something called aligned incentives. And again, sorry, some of this sort of philosophy stuff, but there's Charlie Munger, who is famous for being Warren Buffett, the most successful investor in the world. That's his partner. And he has this incredible thing called, I think it's the 24 laws of human misjudgment. It could be 23, I don't know. But it's one of these things that essentially he put down all the ways that he notices people make catastrophic fuck-ups in their life and in their business that they do again and again and again. And it's one of these useful things to study. It's a little bit dry, but if you study it, you begin to see how it plays into everything. I think there should be like a mandatory high school course on it. But the first law is that humans under recognize the importance of reinforcement and incentives. Put another way, every single time you hear someone say in a relationship, my partner they just don't care about me, or every single time you hear a staff member say, I feel underappreciated. We hear this all the time, right? It's because their hard work isn't being reinforced either with words, deeds, or financial incentives. Okay, so aligned incentives are incredibly powerful, and once we understand who these people want to become, we can begin to incentivize them in a way that will actually motivate them. So there are 3 ways to incentivize. You can incentivize improvement in skill, improvement in performance, and time-based incentives, okay? So let's just do a little aligned incentive exercise, okay? Very, very simple. Let's say someone has a lifestyle goal of working remotely 1 month per year. Excuse me. A lot of restaurants would probably be like, well, you can't work remotely here. We're a brick and mortar location. But what if instead you considered all the remote needs that your business actually does have? Like, let's take stock, right? You have bookkeeping needs. You need social media management. You need emails responded to. You need content created, advertising, email outreach. A bar or restaurant is it's a business that has, many businesses have universal needs, and these are those needs. And so what if you said that the aligned incentive was for every 11 months you spend with us, we'll give you the ability to work 1 month remotely to create 60 social media posts and respond to all social media comments. Bam, okay? You have an aligned incentive. And this is just one of many examples. And it's something that they get and you get, and your customers benefit as well. So it's a win-win-win agreement. Okay, I wish I could ask you guys how this is going. I don't know how to use Zoom, so I'm just going to forge ahead here. I hope this is making sense. And then what you can do is you can gamify your restaurant with something like a role roadmap. So this is about making it fun, okay? Like imagine sitting there having an interview with a prospective employee and showing them something like this. Hey, like, by the way, we believe here that every one of our team members should be trained in all areas of the restaurant because the more we're able to cross-pollinate, the stronger the overall performance is, the more fulfillment you'll get out of your position because you see it from all angles, and the better your skill set will be, and the better you'll be positioned to move on in your career. For example, right? So it's like, and I just pulled all this stuff out of my ass, by the way, but 2 dishwashing shifts and you get like a little bonus. It doesn't have to be crazy, right? It's just like little bonuses when you achieve certain milestones, and you can make this as extensive as you want, but I think you could probably see how having a bit of a role roadmap as well as incentives in general can be extremely effective. And so 2 dishwashing shifts, $35, or maybe a gift card. 3 busing shifts, $40, and you're going to get a hat. 3 hosting shifts, $45, and maybe you get like a gift card for the establishment. So like it costs you next to nothing. You could also partner with, like for the serving example, you could partner with gyms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're also fortifying your local community. So yeah, gamify the onboarding process of your restaurant. So roles and incentives. You can also give, what we just demonstrated was giving small bonuses when they achieve a skill in a role. You can give rewards for bringing in new guests, establishing key relationships. So for example, a couple of years ago at a restaurant I was managing, we had cards that every single member of our team could go to hotel concierges and they could develop relationships. And it was a contest, right? And so whoever, I forget what the specific metric was, but whoever basically cultivated the most relationships won like a pretty sweet prize. Okay, concierge relationships are very important, as well as high performing content. Maybe you have an aspiring like film editor or something like that, right? So if you, by the way, this is sort of an aside as well, but I believe content is best when it's done in-house. And this is coming from a guy who gets paid to do it for other people. So, if you have someone on your team who's like, yeah, I want to make videos, or I want to cut my photography skills, right? Like use that, and give them incentives for when they, perhaps when their content reaches a certain significant metric, okay? All right, now we're just gonna move into, we're at about like the 3/4 mark here. We're gonna move into recruitment marketing. Very simple, okay? This is very simple. This is all predicated on the fact that here, this is really predicated on the fact that there are a lot of open positions and there are a lot of ads out there for positions, and many folks unfortunately are getting very little response. So let's address that, okay? Now, it's not hard to imagine why they don't get a whole bunch of response when they look something like this. We are short-staffed. Please be patient with the staff that did show up. No one really wants to work anymore. Hiring all positions. Experienced line cook starting at $40K a year, including meal compensation. Ask me how. Don't even waste my time if you can't do long hours, hot kitchens, or hard work. No kidding. Who the hell would sign up for that? Sounds like shit. Okay. Due to no staff, we are closed. We are hiring. Call number. Thank you. Hardee's. Okay. Who wants to be part of something that is like basically advertising that it's dead? Okay. So we want to be positioning ourselves as strong and like we're a going concern. Okay, here's McDonald's, all right? Starting their headline, starting pay, $12 an hour. Great. Okay, but they do start to take a step in the right direction by, they list out benefits, okay? So they're starting to stack the value, right? Okay, so college tuition assistance, $2,500 to $3,000 per year after 90 days of employment. Pretty sweet. Free high school diploma program, free uniforms, free employee meals. Free is a very powerful word, by the way, if you haven't noticed. retirement plans, flexible scheduling, career opportunities, paid training, discounts at McDonald's partners, anniversary bonus, employee discount, overtime pay for designated holidays. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere here. And I'm just going to talk very briefly about direct response principles. It's actually just one simple principle, really, okay? And direct response is basically like an old school form of marketing that would be in like magazines. There'd be an offer in that magazine, and there would be a call to action for you to, call to get a full report or something like that. And so what they're looking for is they're looking for response. And if we want more response from our ads, this is a very real problem, by the way. I candidly, I wanted to include some examples, but if you just go to Craigslist in your town and you look up, food, beverage, hospitality jobs, you will see this stuff is rampant. So if we want more response, we simply reduce friction and we increase the value, benefits, and perks. And I'll give you very clear examples here. So, I just triggered Siri. Okay, here we go. So here's some examples of friction. And I want to preface this by saying again, none of this is gospel. I am no guru, right? These are just ideas. And yeah, so you don't have to get rid of this stuff, but I will give you examples of what you might consider replacing it with, or how you might consider adjusting it. So resumes and cover letters, right? People see this, it's friction. Candidly, what do we all say all the time about most resumes? Most of them end up in the trash anyways, okay? It's just more clutter for the most part, right? And someone can very easily say one thing on their resume and then they show up and there's something else, right? So in a way, you've got to kind of reflect like, what's the point anyway? I would consider instead replacing resumes and cover letters with key questions, like questions that actually matter, because the way people answer questions really, I believe, is far more revealing than what's in a resume or a cover letter. Maybe not a cover letter, but definitely a resume. So, for example, you could ask the question, how do you think your past experience would help you thrive with our team or in our culture? You could say, let's say it's like a bartender position. You could be like, what cocktail are you most excited to make for your first guest? And you see, these are good questions that could lead to very revealing answers. Okay, so those are ideas. In-person interviews could be replaced by a 10-minute Zoom call. And should that be successful, you have a good conversation, you get a good vibe from the person. The next step could be like a 2-hour paid trial shift, right? So people are actually demonstrating their capability, their attitude, their character on the court instead of in a fucking resume. Competitive wages. Okay, this is friction because it leads to uncertainty. It's like, well, what does that even mean? Competitive wages, okay? And you might want to consider replacing that with specific wages. I'll get into that in a sec. And also required certification. So making people need food safe, this and that. That stuff is easy to do. So get rid of the friction and simply say after a successful, call interview, okay, by the way, you got to go get the certification, go get it, right? So yeah. Okay. So here are examples of value that we want to dial up. And we saw actually McDonald's do this quite well. Benefits, perks. We want a specific and ideally a high wage. Flexible scheduling. Scheduling that allows folks to plan ahead. Free meals, health and wellness programs, remote work possibilities, kind of like the example we went over. The custom incentive roadmap. So like really, like understanding where they want to go and you create a roadmap for them. Training scholarships. Something else I want to touch on the previous section about this understanding who our employees are becoming is when you have that and when you have that information, you have those roadmaps. That's also stuff that you can kind of feature in your your ads, or at least your interview materials to get buy-in really fast. If someone ever in an interview showed me that they were going to help me become someone, like get to where I really want to go, I would be very excited about that. So So it's really simple, right? This whole thing, you lower friction, you you raise the value, you get more response. And why we want more response is because it means a healthier applicant pipeline. This is a completely new problem for bars and restaurants. Whereas before we would put in all these steps of friction because we're like, whoa, we have like a freaking pile of resumes and we don't have any positions. So then it makes sense to have those steps of friction. But when you want more response, you have to lower the friction, elevate the value, and then you're ultimately left with a healthier applicant pipeline. In any business, usually we think of like customer pipelines, and we want to keep those nice and full, right? Because otherwise business down the line does dry up. And restaurants are no different. They do have a pipeline. It's just not visible to most, right? And so the healthier our applicant pipeline is, the better quality of, the better we are able to just staff our bars and restaurants, right? So I think it kind of goes without saying. And I just want to finish here by considering, when you go through all this stuff, there's this guy, Alex Hormozi, wrote a book I'm obsessed with called $100 Million Off, or $100 Million Offers, How to Make Offers So Good People Feel Stupid Saying No. And he has this really simple formula, which is, if you can take their dream outcome and you can multiply it by the perceived likelihood of achievement. So like when you have your incentive roadmap, for example, you don't want to make it so it's like, you have to work here for 5 years and then you'll get like $5, right? So, the perceived likelihood of achievement, most people might not, especially early on, be willing to stay with you for 5 years, right? So just an example. And then so you want to know the dream outcome, you want to maximize it by the perceived likelihood of achievement. And then at the bottom, you want to reduce time delay. So this is kind of like the example I just gave, where it's like 5 years to get something. You want to, and the more little spots, or the more little destinations you have on your roadmap, the more motivated people will be, because you have all these little steps and it's like, oh yeah, I want to get that, or I want to get that, blah, blah, blah. And then also, the higher the effort and sacrifice is, the lower the perceived value, right? So this kind of goes hand in hand with reducing friction, for example. And it also, like, we don't ever want to say, if you work here, you're going to be working 60-hour weeks. You're going to be going to bed at 5 a.m. every morning, right? So that's sacrifice, right? So I just thought it was worth mentioning this. And that's actually, I want to show you someone who's doing this really well in practice. By the way, if you guys ever want to see what like big dogs are doing, like people who have way more money than most, you can go to this thing called Facebook Ad Library. Just Google it, and you can literally find, this is part of Facebook's transparency thing. You can literally look up any advertiser and you can see their ads. You can see like their landing pages. It's actually pretty powerful, because these people have, like, I'm going to look up Chick-fil-A right now, right? They have invested gazillions of dollars in marketing. And so, for us, we can just sort of ride their coattails, right? We can, sort of, kind of be like those cyclists who ride behind, someone who's really fast. So okay, so here's some, check this out. Okay, so here's some ads, and they have stuff obviously for their their food and stuff like that. But here, check this ad out. Grow your career with us. Okay, you play it. Remember? So they're showing a girl who's like, she goes from a team member to an ER nurse. What are they doing there? They are showing how they help their employees become who they want to become. Okay, look at this. This, like, they have tons of these ads. Look at this. Bam, was a Chick-fil-A team member, now a Chick-fil-A owner, inspiring my team. Okay, I'll just show one more. Had great mentors as a Chick-fil-A team member, now mentoring others as a team leader, right? Like, it's just classic. They are just helping folks become who they want to be. And so if you go to their page, by the way, if you guys want help with any of this here, I also want to mention something. Like when you run ads like the ones we just saw on Facebook, the competition in almost every local market for bars and restaurants on Facebook is so low, it is a tremendous bang for your buck. Okay. I believe like it is a pretty big missed opportunity to just not, you could even put in 5, 10, 15 bucks a day on Facebook. And, whether you're looking to get more guests or more staff, like if that's not paying for itself, even just you setting it up and targeting your local market, call me or text me and let's get into it. If you want help with like pages like this, I can help you with that too. I'm not looking to sell anything here. I would just love to help folks solve this specific problem because I'm very passionate about it, obviously. And I also fundamentally believe that, healthy restaurants, bars, hotels, cafes are really a sign of just a healthy local community, right? So like, look at this. Why work at Chick-fil-A? We aren't just in the business of chicken. We're in the business of people. Okay, we're closed every Sunday, so they're showing benefits here. We offer college scholarship. We help make a difference in your communities. Okay, so this is like self-transcendent stuff. People have an innate desire to give. Okay, so ready to apply, grow your career with us. There's a video of someone, success story. Secret ingredient is you, right? Like they're pouring into their people. They're really highlighting the culture. Okay, and this is why it's important to set aside the time to just sit down with team members and understand who is it you want to become. All this culture shit stems from simple questions like that, but most people don't ask them because, like, I don't know, maybe they think it's weird, which at first surprised because it's unusual. Okay, but anyway, so that was the case study I wanted to show you guys. And that's it. If you ever want to email me, just email me at kyle@nimblebar.co. If you want to call, text me 250-589-7222. Always happy to just share ideas. I'm not, this is not a sales call thing. It's just like, let's talk. And then I would love it to, how about HBU? How about you? So I'm going to stop sharing here. And I see one question. Let's see. Okay. So Ashley asks, do you have any thoughts / knowledge on the concept of profit sharing in restaurants? Great question. I think well, I'll open this up in a second here, but I think it's really smart. This goes back to the idea of aligned incentives. One of the things, so I don't want to get my wires crossed here, but so with GuestGetter, we're developing basically a holistic system called, currently its working title is Jedi Restaurant Marketing Mastery. And it's all about giving anyone really the skill set they need to deliver ROI or a return on investment to a bar restaurant. Now, most staff members don't give a shit about ROI. They don't give a shit about a return, okay? They see a lot of that stuff as more stuff to do. Why is that? It's because their incentives aren't aligned. Now, if you then shake that up and you say, hey, staff member, if you're able to, do some advertising or something like that, and you can show us a return on it, like you can defend your results, we'll give you a percentage of the additional revenue that you generated, right? So that's one example. That's revenue sharing. Profit sharing, I think, is probably really difficult unless they, well, it probably isn't. I'm probably overthinking. But anyways, I think it's an amazing idea. You just have to figure out the structure and how to track it. But anytime incentives can be aligned, like for example, something you might have on the incentive roadmap is, after a couple of years with our establishment, we actually give you a small equity stake in our organization. That's compelling, right? Because you're moving, like maybe someone wants to be a business owner. Well, if you learn everything, the inside and out of this establishment, you learn how to manage it, you learn how to wash dishes, everything. and you've been with us for a couple of years, well, we feel you definitely deserve some ownership stake here. And then inevitably there's profit sharing built into that. Profit share, yeah. So anyways, there it is. So I'd love it if, I don't know how this works, but I'd love to hear from, I know Jane is on the line here, and I just feel like she has some wonderful perspective. I'm gonna try and promote you. I hope I'm not putting you in the spot here, but I'm gonna do it. Jane will be rejoining the webinar as a panelist. Zoom's crazy. Jane? Maybe Jane left. Here, I'll ask her to unmute.
I'm here.
Jane?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Jane's not even here. Jane.
Hi.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're in my AirPods. Maybe I'll just put it on.
Hey.
There you go. Hey.
Hi.
Okay.
How's it going?
Could you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
The whole time.
Okay, good. Because anyways, yeah. So Jane, yeah, tell us about like a Cliff's Notes version of your experience, and yeah, just any ideas you got.
Sure. Well, yeah, that was a great little chat. Thank you, and great talk from you. And I agree with everything you said. I did have like a few little just thoughts as you were talking as well. Going over aligned incentives and the kind of list of questions you had to ask employees. I think just kind of to flip that around a little bit, the organization's values and goals and where they want to be going as well. That should be something that's either really obvious and really evident to employees and everybody in the organization, and also kind of continually updated and shared with everybody as well. I think like to have employees who are really engaged and aligned, they have to know that, yeah, they have to know that about the organization and kind of believe in it and get on board with that. And that's kind of a hard thing to do, especially as we're kind of, as I think a lot of employees are kind of looking for different things and looking for more from work and from their organization than ever before. We're kind of, things have shifted a little bit and people just want to, yeah, just are expecting a lot more, especially in hospitality. I think everybody's really faced a lot of instability, either in their level of employment or else in what hospitality looks like, and the capability to take care of people. And so it's really, important to find that common goal that that staff can align with as well, not just so that they feel like you believe in them, but so they also believe in you as well.
Oh yeah, totally. And I love that. And it really is, it is an ongoing process, right? Like in the presentation, I say it's a quick reset, right? But I mean, it's just, it should become like a best practice. And I totally agree that, the establishment has to sort of get clear on that themselves too.
Yeah. I think another point as well that I think if any of us are on the hospitality group and on Facebook, we see over and over and over again the issue with posting competitive wages and or starting at this rate and that sort of thing. And this is something that I've felt organizations need to look at even before the pandemic and before the labor shortage, is just putting in place wage ranges for all roles and kind of standardizing them in general in their organization. And that's obviously going to shift over time, and it's different for different things, but it's just so helpful for your team to know this is the role I'm in and this is where I can go with it. And then I can go from there, and kind of having that, just kind of knowing where you stand in the organization, and then having ongoing reviews. So you kind of know like, oh, it's been this much, this length of time, and it's pretty basic in most other places, but it's really not something that's that happens in a lot of restaurants. And that's just so helpful for people to kind of just like kind of tells them where they are, because they can just get kind of lost in one position or one job for so long and then start looking for other things.
Totally.
Yeah. What else? Well, and just as far as dealing with staff shortages right now at this period of time, it's still going to be quite hard for a while, because it's I think everybody's ready to do some serious recovery, but we're not done yet. Like we're still really dealing with COVID, and we're still dealing with a lot of instability in general, not just with the pandemic, but we have an election coming up, and just a lot of things are not really, like the dust hasn't really settled yet. So I think one thing that a lot of employees are looking for, especially ones who have left or are leaving the hospitality industry, is stability. And that's one thing that a lot of people were like left because they couldn't deal with, is instability. And so when you are looking for employees at this point, just make sure you can offer that in some way, or make sure that it's you're not going to be giving people another taste of kind of reactive behavior in the face of another storm, because it's I don't think it's quite over yet.
So I totally agree. And I remember I wrote an article like right at the beginning, and it was so like anytime a market shifts, it does not mean that there isn't business that can't be done. You may need to repurpose what people are doing. And so I do know that there were some establishments, they're not big either. Like, it's easy for us to look at Cactus Club or Earl's, who are like huge, right? And they have like huge budgets, but there were small establishments that did not lay anybody off. They just they just got together and they said, okay, like it's kind of like wartime in a way, where it's like, okay, like you're going to go from making couches in a factory to making tanks, or so I just, all that to say that I believe that, I know it's not hard, I know it's easy to say, not easy to do, but I believe that you can create a stable environment by just kind of so cool.
Especially if you know that you have a team that is completely on board with the business already. And it's a lot easier to have your team pivot with you and move with you, instead of them kind of being like, whoa, we're not doing this anymore, I'm out of here. This is not what I signed up for. So
totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey Jane, I really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. No, my pleasure. Okay. So I'm going to give the mic to my boy, Brian. I don't know. There are two of them in here. So. And if anyone else has anything they feel compelled to share, just like, I think you can raise your hand or something. Brian Chapman will be rejoining, or you can put something in the Q&A. So Brian's here. Man, Zoom's crazy. Has to unmute. Really is. Zoom's a skill. Zoom is a skill. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am well, man. I am well.
Awesome.
Yeah, good chat. Good chat so far. A lot of good points. Thank you. And I kind of like, especially Jane's points there. I kind of like, I went through the COVID as I started. I was a bar manager when we all got hit, and I got laid off with all of my staff. We all got laid off, and kind of when it came time to come back, it was a difficult comeback, and it was so long that I found that I had taken a bit of a personal different direction in the place I was working in. So and I'd started doing some other things because I had to come up with my own solutions while I was waiting. And I think that's what a lot of people have done. Is I think that's where a lot of staff have gone, is a lot of staff found their own new direction that, they kind of, their hand was forced to, like, maybe people were ready to leave the industry, but didn't really have a way out. And then kind of got to a point where they said, well, you're out of the industry for at least the next while. So you can sit at home and collect your CRB or whatever we called it back then, or you can figure something else out. And I think a lot of people like myself kind of figured something else out. And I've come back to the industry sort of on and off since then. And, I went through working at a place that was very near and dear to me, and I loved working there. And I still love visiting the place, but I was so caught up in the work I was doing. I was a little bit blind to the fact that I was going through a mental health crisis, and everyone around me noticed. And I just kind of had my head in the sand and just like was going to plow through it no matter what. But, one day the owner came to me and he said, we need to talk. And I kind of, it blindsided me and it sort of surprised me. But at the same time, he was trying to, he had my best interest at heart, and it was hard for me to see that. So, yeah, we've, where am I at with that? But, and, I know so many people who've gone through, hospitality, and just, I think we've all gone through a lot of burnout through COVID here, and, trying to go through the mental health and dealing with the COVID and the constant changes. Even if you had a job, there wasn't stability, because you never knew when the new public health order was going to come and change, how your service worked, if you had service, if you had a job, if your hours going to get cut back, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like Jane was saying, like stability is like about, the hottest ticket item out there right now. And yeah, trying to lure people back by stacking the value that you were talking about. That's, really what I think is going to do it for people, is like, you got to show them like, hey man, like, or, we're here to like put this together, make it work together for both of us. It's not just, it can't just be about, come to work, do your job, and that's it. We gotta be invested in the people just as much as they're invested in us. So, and that really is like, I think the only way that we're going to get the staff back and get this whole thing restarted. So, yeah.
Love that. Thanks, Brian. That's,
Sure.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, really good stuff. All right. Well, I mean, that's all from me. That's all from Jane. It's all from Brian. If anybody else, Kate says, Jane said everything she would have. That's awesome. Well, that's a wrap. I have no call to action other than, like connect with each other. You can feel free to hit me up anytime. If you need help with any of this stuff or just thinking about it, I think we're all like, yeah, what pains me is to see establishments approach things like in silos, like they're just kind of like these like lone wolves, so to speak. And I think that it'll all just be, we can just make it easier for each other here. So yeah, but other than that, thank you all so much. I don't think one person left, which is weird, but good. So all right, well, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I will catch you on the flip side. You're welcome.